everybody. Welcome to the Unraveled podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about our best dates and our worst dates, or for someone who's been married for a while who just doesn't date because she has kids and doesn't ever have time.
Fine. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Who's going to go first?
I have like the best worst day ever. So it just depends if we want to lead with the negative or lead with the positive.
Is it funny?
What?
I said, is it funny?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's almost like unbelievable.
Okay, let's do it.
All right. So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Fine. Okay. So like 10 years ago, I was in my 20s. This guy, he was a mutual friend or he was a friend of a mutual. Yeah, you know what I mean. Anyways, and he Facebook messaged me and was like, I saw him that day at that friend's house, and he was like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. I would love to take you out on a date. And I was like, okay. He was really
like anytime anyone leads with "you're so beautiful," I'm like, bye.
I know. I need to start when people like give me a compliment. I need to start being like, no, thank you. And then I think it would be a lot easier on my little heart. But yeah, no. And so I was like, yeah, let's do something. So I should have known. I should have freaking known. He was like, great, I'll take you out to lunch and then we'll kind of have like a date. And so the day, or like the morning of, he texted me and was like, hey, do you want to pick me up at my house? And I was like, what? And I was like, okay, Vanessa, like, stop being a princess. Yes, you can pick him up. It's fine. So I was like, all right, send me your address. So I go there, and it's like this huge apartment building. And he didn't even meet me at the freaking front of the building. He literally made me walk up to the apartment and like get him. But I'll tell you why. So I was like, why is he making me come up there? This is like so uncomfortable. Why? So I get up there. He opens the door with his shirt off and with a toothbrush in his mouth.
What?
Yes. And I was like, I wish I would have recorded my face because it was probably sheer disgust. I don't have a filter for my face when I'm not impressed.
It's the toothbrush for me.
It was the shirt off for me. I was like, I'm glad you have good oral hygiene, but let's talk about why you need to answer the door with your shirt off. We all know you're physically fit. Shut the heck up here. So then he's like, I'm almost ready. I'm just putting a shirt on. I'm like, thank God for that. And
really? I didn't even notice it was missing.
I didn't know. I should have called him a fat ass because he was definitely not. He was like, no, I don't mean that. I never body shame. I never body shame. But literally, he was like washboard abs, like totally, you could tell he was very into himself and like he wanted me to see that. And so my toxic trait, when somebody is very overly confident and like wants me to compliment them, I'm like, no, I'm not giving you that. No, I'm not. So that's why I said I should have called him a fat ass just to play with his head. But anyways, that's horrible. That's toxic. Don't do that.
Please tell me you're toxic without telling me you're toxic.
At least I'm self-aware. Okay.
True.
So it gets worse, you guys. It gets so much worse. So he opens the door and his brother, which I didn't know at the time, but he's like, this is my brother, is laying in bed with a woman. This is like 1:00. So, and it's like a studio apartment. So he's like right there. And there's this huge, huge, huge bush light, like neon sign that, I mean, yeah. And it kind of looked like what like a really crappy porn studio would look like. Anyways,
For what you envision it to look like. Not that you know.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know.
For all of our listeners, Vanessa is not a porn star.
I'm not a porn star. Far from it. Oh my God. So his brother's laying there naked. The girl's naked, and she's like half covered up with a sheet. And I'm like looking around like, this is not real life. I should have bolted, but I was like, how do I get out of this now? And I didn't know what to say because I was very much less assertive then. And I was like, oh my God, this is hell. This is hell. And his brother was talking about like this girl is married and was talking about how it's his like best friend's wife.
What?
And that,
What?
yes. And so then, you know, like the moral in me, I was like, that's wrong. I'm like, you guys should not be doing this. And I like start like momming them. And I'm like, it was horrible. And they're like laughing about it. And the girl is laughing and they're like, I think we're still drunk. And I'm like, oh my God, get me out of here. So at this point, I was excited to leave with my date. So he was like, let's go, I'm ready. So we leave and we go, then like at first, you know, I wanted to go somewhere nice, but then seeing all this, he's like, where do you want to go? And my mind went to like the least amount
McDonald's.
Yeah,
I know. So I went to a place I knew was not going to be busy at like 1 PM. And we went there and he's like, why aren't you eating? I'm like, I lost my appetite. I'm like, I cannot even, like, I don't know what just happened. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to stop being an asshole and I'm going to try to let him redeem himself. So we start talking and we're like, you know, do you have kids? And he's like, yeah, I have 5. And I was like, wow, that's a lot. And he's like, yeah. And I'm going to say like effing instead of the actual word, but he started dropping the F-bomb all over the place, talking about his baby mama is what he called her. Yeah, that's why I moved from effing South Carolina, because that effing bleep, bleep, bleep was going after me for child support because I'm like 3 years behind in child support. And I'm like,
He said, somebody get me out of here.
Thank God God gave him looks because he sure as hell didn't give him any brains.
Oh my God, he was so dumb. Like top 10 things not to talk about on a date is like finances, and you're freaking 3 years back on child support. And also, like single mom, you know, I've always been super independent financially. Like I've never depended on that. I just you know, single momming is hard. Totally freaking hard. So when you have a guy like sitting there being like, yeah, I haven't paid child support in 3 years and I never see my kids and I don't support them, it's like, ew. So I couldn't get over that, obviously. And then he started talking about how his ex-wife has a drug problem with meth, and like, I'm like, get me out of here. So I ordered an enchilada. That's all I ordered, because I was like, that's the one thing I could order that would be like 2 bites and I would be done. And then I'd be like, we can go. So, and it would be fast. So we finished our food and he's like, all right, do you want to go to do go-karts? And I said, yeah, I'm going to actually take you home. And he is like, what? And he had no idea.
Baffled.
No clue. And literally we talked about him the entire time. I bet he didn't even know that I had kids. Like, I bet he didn't even know what my name was. Like, it was all like, it was the special kind of hell. So we left. I pull up to his house and he's like, do you want to come in? And I was like, no, I don't. I cannot tell you how much I do not want to come in. And
but
so
did
then
you say that?
No.
Yeah.
I said no. I was like, no. And he's like, I don't understand what went wrong. And I just like stared at him, and I bet the look on my face was like, you're not that dumb. And I just looked at him and I was like, look. And then I like felt bad because I was about ready to unleash and be like, that was the worst date of my life. You are a hot mess and a half. But instead I said, I don't think I'm ready to date. And I realized that very much today. And I wish you the best. And he's like, this has never happened to me before. And I shit you not, I looked at him without hesitation and I said, really? I find that hard to believe. So like I was like, oh, love and light, I wish you the best. And then he said that and that like it went away just like that. I'm like, really? And he just looked at me like his face dropped and he's like, I'm gonna go inside now. And I'm like, that's probably best. So he went inside and then he messaged me I don't know, that night or the next day. And he's like, I am so sorry for whatever went wrong. I would like another chance. And I didn't even respond. And then I'm not kidding, like 2 weeks later, I was in Minneapolis at Mall of America at Victoria's Secret. Obviously not a place you want to run into a guy that you went on the worst date of your life. Literally lingerie in hand. And he comes up to me and he goes, oh my God, this is so weird. I'm seeing you here. And he was with a girl. And I just was like, this is horrible. This is hell. Why does he keep popping up in my life? I've never seen him since after that, but he tried having a conversation with me. Yeah, it was awful. So hopefully your positive story can really make a bounce back from that.
Oh my gosh, that is so.
It doesn't sound real, right?
No.
Yeah.
I have a like
gross.
My worst date. So this was like right after I moved to DFW. Hearing yours, I like picked a different worst date. I've had a couple, honestly, let's just be real here. But so right after I moved to DFW, I got on like a dating app, and I met this guy and his like pictures on there were so cute. Like, so obviously naturally I was like, yeah, let's go to dinner. So he tells me that like when we're trying to decide to pick the place of where we're going to go, he like lived like, I don't know, 45 minutes from where I was living at the time. And he was like, you'll have to drive all this way because my car won't make it. And I was like, oh, okay. Like that's cool, whatever. So I drive 45 minutes, meet him at this place and wait there a whole ass hour. Why I did that, I should have freaking left like way before then. But anyways, waited on it. And so we get inside and he's like, it was so awkward, like saying hi to each other. His freaking dating profile said he was like 5'11". He was like as tall as me. I am 5'3". I was like, bro. I was like, why lie about that? So that threw me off guard. Clearly, I'm a short shit. Like, I don't want to date somebody that's like the same height as me. And so that threw me off. Well, then we're like sitting there, we order a couple drinks and he just starts laughing. And I'm like, what's funny? Like hysterically laughing. And I'm like looking around. I'm like, what's so funny? And he was like, I was so nervous to meet you that I wore my shirt inside out. And I was like, oh, thinking, okay, he put it on inside out, whatever. And he was like, no, look, and still had his shirt inside out, like tag and all hanging out. And I was like, okay. So then we like start talking and he ended up even lying about his age, like on the Bumble profile. And so I was like, at this point, I'm like, no, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. And you could tell his pictures on the profile were totally at the age he said he was. Like, you could tell he like was like 6 years older. And so I'm just, all I can sit there and think about is like, holy shit, I've been catfished. I've actually been catfished. Like, what is going on here? And so then like we're whatever, I'm nice. So I'm like, trying to finish out this date. And clearly I'm already thinking in my mind, like, there's not going to be a second date. No way. And so he starts talking about all these video games he's playing and like, so like into them. Like you can tell like Clearly that's what he does with his spare time, which cool, whatever, but like didn't understand any part of it. And he just like would not stop talking, like kind of like about you, Vanessa, like only about himself, but not even about himself, about his freaking video games and about how good he is and how he's ranked up. And I'm like, okay. And he was like, he like pauses and starts doing that hysterical laugh again, like just like hysterically laughing at himself. And so at this
Was
time,
he
I'm like,
high?
I don't know. He had
That's
to
what
have been.
Yeah.
Had to have been, because it was so awkward. Like I literally wanted to crawl out of my seat. And when I say he was hysterically laughing, I'm not talking like I'm talking like like
Oh my
so
God.
bad.
It's either high or really burnt out.
You know what I would have
Honestly,
said? I would have looked at him and been like, dude, you're not that funny. Why are you laughing? This is
okay. Do you guys know, like, and I am not trying to offend anybody on here by any means, but do you guys know what perma-fried means?
No.
Like when somebody has done drugs a lot of their life, that they've literally fried their brain cells.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
literally the like what I picked up on him, because none of the stuff he was saying was making sense. He was like, I don't know, or either he's just a nerd and like, you know, that's cool, not for me, but like for somebody, but not for me.
You were offending gamers everywhere.
I
Right
am
now.
so sorry, gamers. So sorry.
My 17-year-old is a gamer, and he is.
Ashton, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. But anyways, and so he like starts doing the hysterical laugh again, and he was like, I wore my best socks for you. And I was like, what? And he was like, I wore my best socks for you. And okay, so when he walked up and like we met, like he was already sitting at the table. So I walked up and like he was already sitting. So he proceeds to get up out of the booth, stands up. He's got on khaki shorts, tennis shoes that are like my grandmother's age, and tall socks that go right up to right underneath his knee, and they are emoji face socks, bro.
Oh my God.
I was like,
Oh.
cool. Yeah.
Good.
And he was so excited about them. And at that point, I was like, all right, this is definitely not going anywhere after this. But, you know, I was like, whatever, kind of like, you know, I was like, clearly not aware as how aware I am now. And so I'm like trying to like be nice and like, you know, I think it's rude to like want what you want at this phase of my life. And clearly he was not. So I was like, whatever, we'll still just sit here and like try it out. So we keep talking and it's just like not happening. Anyway, so we go to leave and he's like, can I walk you to your car? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I don't know how y'all feel about this, but this is just so weird to me. So he goes to give me a hug and he hugs underneath my arms like this. Like,
I'm so glad you brought that up. I have comments on that.
and I was like, when he did it, I literally think I was like, oh, like what is going on here? Like he was like up, I don't even know how, like up underneath, like, and cupped me, like, and I was like, okay. Like he literally squatted and was like, I was like, you know, like, what do you do? And so I was like, okay, bye. Then he texted me like literally as we were pulling out of the parking lot, and he was like, I had the best date with you.
Oh my God.
I want to know when I can take you out again. And
Vanessa, you're all, oh, and I'm like,
I know,
holy
this
hell,
is why I
no.
get in trouble, because I'm like, oh.
No.
And I'm not even gonna lie, I totally just didn't respond. I was that person. I know.
You ghosted
him. I know. But we're being real here, right? So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah. So clearly, and I have never been to a Boomer Jack since, because every time I go, I just think about like, there's this one time this guy was like, hey, can I take you to Boomer Jack's? No, not at all.
Not now, not then, not ever.
Oh God.
I will say, like, it's I feel bad for him because to some woman is going to come along and think those socks are adorable.
I know.
So I just feel bad. And some woman's going to come along in game 2 and be like the perfect little match for him. And so,
the thing that shocked me is like his Bumble profile was like, love
So
to fish, hunt, outside door activities. And then he didn't talk about any of that, just games.
Clearly someone wrote that for him.
Clearly I was catfished.
Probably his mother. Probably his mother, you guys.
Or coworker.
So, I want to talk about the hug. So like I dated-ish someone recently, and like I'm a very, very affectionate person. I didn't date him. Okay, we were like friends. We were feeling each other out. And I was gonna say literally, but no, that's not appropriate. So anyways.
Well, you just gave it away. So
yeah. Anyways, anyway.
So, moving on to the cup hug.
Yeah. So like the first time like we hugged, it was really awkward because it was like one of those where I wanted to go like this. I like to hug with my arms up top.
Same.
Right?
Same.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like he wanted to be on top. He was
keep it PG, bro.
I am. So we both like hug up top, and I like go to hug up top, and I'm like, wait. And I like grab his arms and I'm like, no. And I like push them down. Sometimes I don't like think about my actions before I do them. So I just like grabbed his arms and I'm like, no, I'm on top. And he like kind of looked at me weird. And I was like, you can't put your arms, I go up here. It is the weirdest thing. That was his hugs. Like he loved his arms up top. And so I'm shorter. So then I feel like my face is like being engulfed and I'm like, can't breathe. And then my arms, and then my arms are like around his waist. And I'm like, this is the worst hug of my life.
You should have known at that point.
It was never going to work. If they're cup huggers, I know from me.
Cup huggers don't work.
Guys, don't be a cup hugger.
Don't be a cup hugger. Let's talk about that.
But also
next week.
Cup huggers 101.
I have like a kind of a theory about guys that hug that way. I feel like there may be some like emotional issues behind it to where they want to be like submissive in a hug and like have like a motherly embrace. Do I sound crazy? Like think about it. Like when you hug a child or a child, like you kind of engulf them.
Yeah.
Like
they like if you pick up your kid to give them a hug, they're always wrap their arms around your neck. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like for me, like it's kind of a thing of safety. Like when I hug someone like that, I hug my mom regular. I put my arms around her. Like it's not when I put my arms around your neck, I like kind of like bury myself into you, just like kind of like a kid does. Like somebody that feels safe that you can fall into. Well, so like perhaps guys are, when they hug like that, maybe it's kind of like the same where they're looking for like
a security blanket,
a maternal, yeah.
So what we're getting at here is we need all men to answer a poll on our Facebook page. Are you a cup hugger? And do you have emotional damage?
Oh my God. And then we just put a link on there. Listen to our podcast to find out what a cup hugger is.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're on to something though.
Maybe.
Emotionally, I do. Okay.
Maybe. Okay, Alex. So we know, let's start the positive side of this. Let's tell us about your best date ever.
Oh. So I just keep coming back to when Jamie and my husband, reconnected So like backstory, we dated. And then I moved to Australia. We didn't talk for 10 years, both went down our own paths. Didn't talk for 10 years. And then I moved back to the United States, and we both happened to be available at the time. And I just messaged him saying I was going to be in town. Did he want to get coffee? And then he said yes. And I was super excited and had butterflies. And then coffee didn't work out. And so we went to have supper at a restaurant there in town. And we met there, and it was like butterflies, like the same ones that were there 10 years ago. And we sat at our table and we just like unloaded our stories of like the last 10 years of what happened in our lives. And it was like so parallel. We were just completely in sync. And it goes back to the 10 years before that when I first saw him in the bar that I was working. And like, I just knew, like, I'm going to marry this guy. Hadn't even spoken to him. Like, he is so attractive. I'm going to marry him. And then I had the same feeling 10 years later. And then dinner turned into drinks at the bar there. And we moved from the table to the bar area. It had like a high top bar. And we were both like, there was something on TV. And then we were sitting there and our arms were like kind of next to each other, but not really touching. But it was like that feeling where you feel like you're touching, and it was like all electric, and you're just like, oh my God, I just want to grab his arm. But you didn't want to grab his arm. So it was like that really uncomfortable, like, what do I do type thing. And then we talked literally the entire time from like 5:30 until 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, I love
And
that.
yeah. And then gave him a hug at the end of the night, and like that was it.
Was he a cup hugger?
No, he was not a cup hugger.
I cannot see Jamie being a cup hugger. No.
That's why it's worked out, y'all. That is why it's worked out.
He's very much like, what's that?
I said he is like dominant. Like he would not be a cup hugger.
He's not a cup hugger. But there's times when he's a softie and he'll come like snuggle up on me, but he's also my husband, so that's okay. But yeah, and then from there, here we are, like 8 years later, almost 7 years later. Yeah.
It's a good date when like the conversation doesn't end and it's just conversation. Like it's not, you can have like crazy chemistry and it be like just, it's not sexual. That's one thing, like it drives me crazy. Like now I feel like so many guys, like when you have a connection with somebody, they like take it to sexual like right away. And it's like, no, like I want to see like what's inside. I want to make sure that you're like, a match inside first. And yeah, so I love that.
Like speaking of what you said about like guys making it sexual, like, so Vanessa and I like did a poll of like these 10 questions. And one of them is like, if you have sex with like on the first date, is it a loss of respect? And so I had asked somebody that personally, like, is it for you? And he answered like, yes, because I would think you do that on every date, which I completely understand that. But why is that a man's answer? But yet it's normally the man pursuing it to the sexual part.
Because they don't think with, when we're asking them,
like that
they can think clearly, but when they're in the situation and they're in your presence, they are thinking with the wrong
head
part.
Yes.
Appendage. Yeah. It's so crazy. And maybe that's why, I don't know, I just like fell in love with him all over again. Cause literally it was not sexual for the longest time. It was just like reconnecting, getting to know each other like again. Right.
But don't you think, I think like the connections that I've made like throughout my life, the guys that are respectful and the guys that, the good ones, which haven't been that many, they don't push that right away. Like that's not, I mean, and so I feel like that question is only relevant to the guys that don't respect you right away, which we've all had those dates where it's like, you're not my person, but the connect, you know what I mean? I won't elaborate on that, but
we know what you're going with there.
Yeah.
I think about like some of the good dates I've had, like whatever reason, like they didn't work out, but well, okay, speaking of, like I went on a date last night, right? And he was so respectful. Like he prayed for our meal, which I have never had a guy do that. Like ever be like, can we pray before? So obviously that I was like, who are you? Like, you know?
Logan's like texting me in the bathroom. Oh my God. Great.
Oh. But then even at the end of the night, like, we sat and chatted, and it was like, he like kept being like, okay, well, I'll let you go. And then like, we would like light up a new conversation. Like it was like how you said, Vanessa, like a never ending conversation. Like it would just like, you couldn't leave because there was just so much to talk about, but it was so natural. It wasn't like, like forceful, like what's your favorite color? When's your birthday? Like it was actually conversation. And then at the end of the night, he asked, he was like, may I kiss you? And I've never I think I've had that one other time, like a guy actually be like, can I like kiss you? And I think that is so respectful. And like, I don't know, like I feel like, why are men not like that? Some men just go in for the freaking kiss, and then all of a sudden it's like tongue down your throat, and then they're filling you with you're so beautiful and you're so great and I've had such a good day, and then it leads to one thing, and then they freaking don't talk to you anymore.
So it's interesting because I also asked like that same question, and I had some varying answers. Both work, right?
Yeah, both are fine.
Okay. And like some guys were like, no, I mean, if the connection is there and like it happens, like I don't lose respect for the girl. Like I like her, if I like her and I want to still continue, if that's not what I'm after in the first place. And so a few were like, no, I don't lose respect for them there. But then one guy was like, hold on, let me read you his response because it was so good. And
I love that guy said, if that's not what I'm after, like just by you answering it like that, clearly that's what you are after,
Well, okay. So I feel like not all men, but there are some men that like go through that stage of, when they're single or whatever, and they're like openly dating, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say anything more on that, but
just listening to you guys and like dating and stuff, I'm like, oh my God.
Are you getting traumatized?
Yeah. I'm like, that is not what I want.
Because I'm very traumatized, Alex. I'm very traumatized.
Alex, not all of us land Jamie's, okay?
I know. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
one day you will. One day
yes,
you
we
will.
do. You have to do the inner work first and find your worth. And when you find your worth, you are going to land a Jamie. Shout out to Jamies everywhere.
We love you,
He's gonna be so excited that we're like dropping him on this podcast. Just kidding. He's gonna hate it.
Really? Sorry, Jamie. Okay, so I have to tell you, this guy's answer was like amazing. Okay, he said, it doesn't affect my view of her, but I'm not sure if this will answer it. But if you want to know if you really care about someone, don't F them first.
Wow.
That's a really good answer.
Ooh. I know. And I was like, literally, my reply was like, ooh.
Are you single, by the way?
Yes. So ladies, if you like his answer. Okay. And then, so then he says, sex on the first date for me is like a challenge, I guess, which I think goes for a lot of men. Sorry. Without a challenge, I lose interest, not respect.
So he's saying he loses respect if they don't have sex with him?
No,
Oh, he loses interest if they don't have sex
he
with him.
doesn't lose respect for him. He loses interest because it's not a challenge anymore. Like,
Well, clearly he's not connecting with her on the right
yeah.
level.
So that's kind of what he said
Like
at
the
first.
chase.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, like his answers are really good. I'm so excited to dive deep into like all
Yes.
the that
Good
I've got.
segue. So we have our course next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, called Relationships or Situationships. And it's our free training. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 o'clock
Yeah,
Central.
it's from 6 to 8 Central.
Yeah. And we're going to be kind of diving into some of these survey questions that were asked of the male population, and talking through not just these kinds of romantic relationships, but business relationships, professional relationships, friendships, and just finding out, diving into healthy relationships, or are you just there because it's convenient, which we're all guilty of that. So it's on our Mighty Networks, and Logan, you talk about where they find it because that's your forte.
So if you guys want to come to the training, you can actually go to our Facebook page, Unraveled Coaching and Retreats. And it is the pinned post on the page. It has a link to where you can register. Like Alex said, it's free. We're going to be talking about how to set healthy boundaries in all sorts of relationships, how to speak up for yourself in all sorts of relationships, self-worth in relationships. And Vanessa and I had this idea of asking men these 10 questions, but we have had an influx of men want to know if we are asking women these questions as well. So we actually are. So it's a good place to come and learn about like the opposite sex. Yeah, the opposite sex and what we think in our brains, and like not having to go and ask like somebody, but like getting a broad of answers just to see how each like sex functions, yeah, so it's going to be so good. It comes with a workbook, a visionary call, and like we said, it's totally free. So come and get your relationship or situationship on with us.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this one.
Me too.
I am too. I didn't even know I'd be this excited about it, but I've like, as I'm gathering like information for our topics and stuff, the people that have reached out to me, both male and female, wanting like more information, more insight, and then the questions that like women and men have come through, guys that I've never talked to, like message me and like just totally spill about like why dating is hard. And I think as a woman, like you don't think guys think that way. Personally, I feel like guys are just like not as like, for me, I don't want to say I'm an overthinker, but dating, I'm always like, why did he say that? Why did he not say that? Why has he not told me? Like, it's exhausting. It's freaking exhausting, you guys, especially like unhealthy people that you're talking to, and you don't know they're unhealthy until you get to know them, which practice, you eventually learn the red flags, right? But anyways, so yes, we're all super excited for this one, and we're traumatizing Alex just a little bit over it, but
I'm writing in my manifestation journal today. I am so happy and grateful now that I have an Alex and Jamie relationship.
Yeah, he'll be so excited.
I know.
Maybe we should have him come on and be interviewed.
Oh my God, that would be like his version of hell.
Oh God. Okay. All right. Well, we love all of our listeners, all of our YouTube viewers, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm sure the topic's going to be something great because this has opened a whole can of everything. Yeah. So we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Toodles.